So how I got into this work? I started really getting active in things, I guess, in high school. I started working with different rec centers and community centers, doing different projects. I was, performing in plays. I hosted a radio show, a television show, and it was really all in fun and spending time with friends and getting to know people and just really engaging, but not actually knowing what I was doing. Just having a good time with doing some positive things in the community. And I mean, from there, going into the University of Minnesota, just getting really active in the Black Student Union, joining a fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, participating in a number of different activities. The Poised Revolutionaries Interested in Saving Media, PRISM, and the School of Journalism. So, I started getting busy doing a lot of stuff, and that led to understanding that I could create a career from doing this stuff.
Um, I guess one question that we have for you is sort of, what are the ways of being involved in your community?
Hmm.
And how would you define leadership in your community and how decisions made?
Oh, okay. So ways to be involved with the community. So there are there are infinite ways to be involved in any community. Um, it's about identifying the assets that are there, recognizing the resources that you have, and doing what you can where you are with what you have. Um, so it's about identifying what interests you, what you want to do, and taking advantage of the opportunities to engage that you see. So I mean, little things from posting stuff on Facebook to being in attendance at a rally. It really just matters on what your level of engagement is, where you're interested in being a part of things, and how you want that to play out. Community is really about experience, and that can be experience in the frame of proximity. So we're close to each other, so we have a similar experience. Race, um, academic experience, socioeconomic experience. But it's all about recognizing that we've gone through similar things, and so we can build a community around that. We can build camaraderie around the fact that we've experienced similar things. And so that's what a community is all about. I found that question really interesting when I started to reflect on it. And so when it comes to engaging with the community, it's just about recognizing the people that you share experience with and engaging with them to do things that you share interests in. Um, yeah. So there's what I see is a continuum. There's an action continuum, and it's something that we've talked about in the Public Allies Twin Cities program with our participants. But you have uh, one end of the spectrum or the continuum is perpetuation. So you're perpetuating issues, you're perpetuating problems, alcoholism, domestic violence, racism, etc. And on the other end of the spectrum, you're combating those things. So you're really working against those things to make sure that the community gets to a place where it reaches its full potential. And there are dozens of different places in the middle where you're learning, you're teaching, you're growing, you're moving forward, you're moving backward, you're understanding more about yourself and the community where you want to work and the problems that you want to work to solve. In addition to that, with the number of different layers to each individual, there are new opportunities for oppression, right? So, there's different ways for people to recognize that, um, I'm being marginalized in this way, or I'm being oppressed in this way. And so for each of those things, there's another continuum for you to recognize that, I can engage as a perpetuator of this problem, or I can engage as a combatant of this problem. So Public Allies is all about uh, a focus on assets. We have 5 core values: focus on assets, collaboration, diversity and inclusion, focus on assets. I said that. Focus on assets, collaboration, diversity and inclusion, continuous learning, and integrity. So um, the foundation of the work is focusing on assets and making sure that people recognize um, that it's not just going into a community to solve the problems that we see, but engaging with community members to recognize the assets that are already there and building on those to achieve the results that the community wants to see. And recognizing the collective vision for what success means for a community, and working to achieve that. There, there are so many different voices to be heard, and there's so many people who may or may not be willing to speak up or speak out about the things that they're interested in seeing. So it's about first of all offering the invitation to to give a voice, and creating space for people to offer their voice up. And I think that's the due diligence of it, is just creating that space where there's opportunity to hear voices. And in addition to that, it's being present, because if you're not here, if you're not engaged physically with the community, then you really have no way of understanding what voices exist there, because you're not present, you're not being engaged in real time physically. Vital skills for young professionals include an unrelenting curiosity, right? Which may not feel like a skill, but it's necessary. You have to be curious. You have to want to know. You have to be inquisitive. Um, in addition to that is persistence, being willing to continue when it doesn't feel right or you're uncomfortable, being able to work through the work that needs to be done. So curiosity, persistence, and what was my other one? Presence. That was the other thing. So if you're present, if you're persistent, and if you're curious, you're going to be successful in this work. So the work that you do has to be connected to something that you're passionate about. And when you're passionate about something, you're going to want to know more about it, because it's something that's a passion of yours. It's close to your heart. And so as you investigate, you grow even more curious. And as you develop that curiosity, you let it bleed into other things. So why not learn about other elements of the work that you're interested in doing, so that you can be more knowledgeable about the ways in which you want to create an impact. um, so that's where the curiosity comes from, and the persistence. It's um, yeah, I think it's exercising hearing no, and exercising um, continuing in the work even when it doesn't feel right, um, because it's important. And a lot of times I feel like there has to be a catalyst, right? Like there has to be something that um, kicks you to let you know that you have to work harder, or you have to keep going even though, so on and so forth. self-preservation is key. Okay, if you're gonna do great work, you gotta survive, right? As long as you're here, then you can engage. Companionship, I think, is key. Uh, you know, uh, I was married in 2011, and I'm actually this weekend. My wife and I will be celebrating our 2-year anniversary, and I think it's important to realize that when you have people, pets, friends, community members, whoever that you can engage with, that you can share about your experience with, that you can lean on in times of burnout, then you'll have what it takes to sustain. It's oftentimes, I think, when people try to go it alone, that they end up burning out quickly. They don't understand why things aren't going the way they want to go, because they don't have anybody to really bounce ideas off of. They don't have anybody to talk about the struggle and the frustrations that they're dealing with. And it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of difficult work. So you need to be able to have someone that you can speak to about what you're going through, and someone that you can trust, someone that you can build a companionship with, and use that to sustain yourself. Because that's you've got to. Period. Absolutely. When you get on a plane and they tell you about the little string and the mask, right? They tell you to save yourself before you save anybody else, because if you're not saving yourself, then we've lost a hero. People are naturally drawn to each other. Passion is contagious. You can see it. It's a glow. It's an aura. You recognize when someone's passionate about engaging in positive community work. You can recognize when somebody is doing great things. You'll end up running into each other at different things, because you're gonna want to be in the same places. So it's about just recognizing where you are, recognizing the people that you're seeing, and taking advantage of opportunities to engage with them, and build that community of leadership. You've got to harness that passion and concentrate it, so that collectively the passion can bleed out into the community, and create more energy in the work that needs to be done. I mean, that's how you build a collective vision. That's how you you rally people together, by letting that passion glow from a collective energy to do positive things. When you're passionate about something, when you really engaged and you really want to make an impact, there will be times when your passion is too much for your capacity. And there are a number of times in my career where I've taken on more than I could handle, and leaning on companionship helped me understand those things. Leaning on mentorship helped me understand those things. And so I've gotten to a place now where I can better recognize when it's getting to be too much of a heavy load, and understand how to delegate, when to delegate, what to delegate. But it's definitely something to watch for. Over volunteering, taking too much of your time to engage in work that has little to no return on investment. Personally, little to no return on investment in terms of the impact that you're having, and little to no return on investment fiscally, financially, because I think that's a lot of a lot of people in the nonprofit sector specifically forget that, yeah, you have to pay bills. You're still an adult. You're still a professional, even in the nonprofit sector. Just because it's nonprofits doesn't mean that, you know, all debts are forgiven. It doesn't mean that you don't have to worry about putting gas in your car. You still have these responsibilities, and you still need to make sure that what you're doing doesn't take away from your ability to handle your personal responsibilities. And when you over volunteer, when you take on too much responsibility, it puts you in a place where you can't handle the things that you need to handle outside of the work that you want to do. Coach McKenzie is really a staple in the community here, and he wrote a book. I think it's up here actually. Basketball, much more than just a game. And in this book, one of the stories is that there's an eagle. An eagle egg fell from its nest, and it hatched, and it was living with chickens. So this eagle like spends its whole life living with these chickens, and it looks up in the sky and notices eagles soaring through the air. It's like, man, I wish I could do that. You know what I mean? But all the chickens that are around this eagle are like, no, you're a chicken. So, you know, we got to do what chickens do. We're ground animals. We live here. This is what we do. This is our place. We're on the ground. Eagles are in the sky. Yeah, they can fly. They do that amazing stuff. But you're a chicken. You're with us. And, you know, this eagle lives its entire life as a chicken, not recognizing that it has the capacity to do these great things. And I think that's another mistake a lot of us make, is that we let the people around us dictate what we believe we can achieve. And I think it's important for people to realize that just because the people around you aren't doing the things that you envision doesn't mean that you can't. I think Einstein said if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its life believing it's an idiot. So it's important to be mindful of the fact that if you have a vision, it's important to try. It's important to try. The way that I want to participate in the larger society, I want to live life as a global citizen. And the way that I want to do that is identify and share best practices. So I want to learn as much as possible about the best way to do things so that I can share that knowledge and help everyone doing this work understand the best way to get things done and the best way to make the changes that we want to see. I think there are a lot of us who come up with ideas that we know and believe are great, and we go out there and we chase dreams and we do things and we feel the passion and we drive, and we don't take the time to research and understand what's been done, what's been proven to be effective, and what's been proven to be ineffective. And if we take that time to research, to look into it, to do the digging that's necessary, then we save ourselves a lot of time and save ourselves from wasting energy and get more done, do more good work.
Do you have any specific examples of things that you feel like you've researched? There's specific examples of success and you're on that train of thought?
So this asset-based community development model thing, I don't even know like what to call it, if it's a theory, if it's but it works. I mean, I've seen it on various scales. I've seen it in collaborations. I've seen it in individual lives where people, start thinking about what are the resources that I have available to me to be successful in my life. And then, taking that to scale with the community to say, what are the assets that we have that we can work together to use more effectively and, drive the impact that we're trying to make. it works. It just works. So that's one that I definitely agree with. Trying to think of another.
So do you have community members that do mapping or?
Yeah, so we do the asset mapping where we basically go into the community, do a scavenger hunt, right, and see what's here, and get an understanding of what things are available, what churches are around, what businesses are around, what schools, what organizations, and then what are they doing? Why are they doing what they're doing? Who else is doing the same thing and doesn't realize it? That's one thing that really frustrates me about the Twin Cities, is that there's so many organizations doing the exact same thing and not working together. I don't understand it. I think a lot of times it comes from just poor interpersonal relationships. We got to get over that stuff. We got to get over that stuff because it's not about us, right? It's about the work that needs to be done. And if I'm truly engaged and I'm truly passionate and I'm truly committed to this work that needs to be done, then I'm going to look past whatever interpersonal issues we have and get the work done. So when it comes to identifying core values of a community, I think it has to deal with understanding like the lowest common denominator for people who are, who share a community. Um, so that means, what are the basic things that we can all agree on? And, how can we work together to make sure that those things are our focus rather than thinking about, this person's passionate about that, this person's passionate about that, and allowing those things to drive us apart. Let's talk about the things that we agree on at the basic level so that we can drive that impact together. I think that's how we define a collective vision. I think one of the most jarring mistakes that I've made would be the time that I've wasted um, doing things that I'm not good at, um, because I feel like as a young professional coming into the sector that I had the responsibility to be good at everything, right? So I would take on a task and want to accomplish that task, um, and I wouldn't really reflect on what are the skills that I bring to the table, and what are the skills that the other people around me bring to the table. How can I use the skills that the people that I work with have? I was too focused on being the one to accomplish it all. Um, so, something I continuously think about is, how do I delegate? And how do I identify my own strengths and the strengths of others so that we can all work together, um, doing the things that we're good at to make the best possible product at the end of the day. And I think I've wasted a lot of time um, trying to do it all. I've also wasted a lot of time uh, not measuring um, the time that it takes to get something done, um, not measuring the value of the work that I do. Um, because as I mentioned before, with the over volunteering, you get into this realm, and you just want to do everything. You want to accomplish the goals that you have. You want to create the impact that you want to see, and oftentimes it's uh, a blind eye toward the amount of time that's spent in the work that's being done. And what that does is it takes away from so many opportunities to do even more and greater work. Um, time lost, and you can't get it back, but you can learn from those mistakes and start to recognize how long it takes to do things, start to recognize how much energy you have to do things, and move forward with that understanding, and do what you can with what you have. How do you identify what you're good at? Um, you'll get compliments. Um, you'll talk about it too much. You'll get that feedback like, why do you talk about this all the time? It's because you're good at it. That's why. Um, you know, um, we tend to do the easy things before we do the hard things. So if you notice a pattern of the way you approach your work and you start to get things done in a certain order, the things that you're doing first are more likely than not the things that you're good at, because you're like, I've accomplished so much with this task. Well, it's like, no, you did what you were good at first. Now it's time to do the hard stuff. So that's you start to you have to reflect. You have to recognize the patterns um, that you see, and other people will probably tell you before you recognize it, and you just have to appreciate it and understand that if a number of people are telling you that they see a skill in you, then it might need some looking into. You might as well check it out to see if you agree, first of all, that this is something that you're good at. And you may not, because we're our own worst critics, right? So if you draw well and everybody tells you that you draw well, but according to your standards it's not that great, then it's probably because you're so good that you don't realize your work is awesome. So yeah, I mean, take the feedback that you get and reflect on it, consider it. I think um, I think there are people who make decisions and people who make adjustments. And when a decision is made, you have to make a choice on making the adjustment to accommodate that decision, or making an adjustment to move on to something else. So how decisions are made um, is an interesting question to me. I think children make decisions and adults make adjustments. A kid says, "This is what I want," and the adult says, "Okay, let me figure out how to make that happen for you." I think I think people who are naive make decisions because, you know, someone who doesn't know they can't do something will make a decision to do it. And the people around them will have to adjust and accommodate that person to make it happen. And then all of a sudden, they can do it. Um, Collective decisions, I think, are a little more complex. It's something I've tried to give some thought, but it's tough to really understand. I think it takes research to understand, where things stem from. I mean, if who decided 2 plus 2 is 4? Who decided to use the word 4 to describe this many? So it takes the historical research to understand, where originating decisions were made, to understand how new decisions are made. I'm all about creating paradigm shifts. That's something that really interests me. And a lot of times we talk about the work of systems change and addressing issues with institutionalized oppression, institutionalized marginalization, institutionalized this and that. And I think we fail to recognize that a lot of that stems from the paradigm, the thought process that we all have, the thought process that we bring to the work. And I happen to believe that if we can make shifts to our thought, then we'll automatically shift our systems. Um, and so the work of paradigm shift comes in conversations. It comes in research, teaching, and helping um, others understand the perspective that you're offering. And I think if we can learn to agree on on different topics, it'll get us to a place where we can understand what it means to shift, how we're thinking. If people would just like let go, let go of these thoughts, these ideas that we hold on to so passionately without even understanding where they come from. If we can take a moment to even consider what it would look like to drop it for a second, and just what if we thought about it in a different way? Wouldn't that change something? I think it would. I think it would create a lot of positive shifts for the better. So I'm all about paradigm shift.